Here we are in a 4,000 capacity lane farm, and I thought as much that considering the weather that we're about to get into, that is the dry season, I felt it needful for me to tell you one of the major problems that both farmers and farm handlers face during this dry season. And what is it? It's heat stress. Join me as I tell you about more about this. Now it's obvious that you can see that the birds are panting. At the peak of heat, like I told you earlier, you'll notice them panting. You can see them trying to get in more air just to make sure that they lose their body heat. You can see them. At this stage, most of them are not interested in food or what they want to pick. They are interested in getting enough air to reduce their body temperature. We're talking about heat stress, and it's important that I bring this to you. What is heat stress? Heat stress is derived from two words, heat and stress, and it means the stress that birds go through when they're exposed to heat. My focus today is to tell you about, the effect of heat stress in laying birds and how you can prevent this in your farm. The major thing about heat stress in laying birds is decrease in production. That is, apart from the loss of birds that it causes, the major impact of heat stress is decrease in production. And how does heat stress do this? It does this by first reducing or impacting on the amount of food the birds consume, and impacting on the amount of water the birds take. When food consumption is low, the ability of birds to produce egg is hampered, and that's how heat stress affects birds. Now, what are the telltale signs that you have heat stress on your farm? The first thing is the fact that the birds will start panting, and the next thing is that they'll raise their wings up. The reason why they're raising their wings is because they are hot, and they want to make sure that enough air gets into their through their body to reduce the temperature. Now, another thing you need to be particular about during heat period is that most of the pipes, the drinking hose that these birds drink from, are always hot, especially when you don't flush regularly or when you don't use ice packs. So that's why during heat stress, there are some things we put in place to ensure that your birds do not suffer from the effects of this heat. Now, these are some of the things we put in place. The first thing we do on this farm is to make sure that our birds feed very early. Why do we make sure that they feed very early? We make sure that they feed very early because we want to ensure that 4 hours before the sun is at its peak, that they have exhausted the food in their feeders. That is between the 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. in the morning. The birds ought to have exhausted their food in their feeders. Now, the next thing we did on this farm is to make sure that our foggers are installed. I'll show you what a fogger is. It's a fogging machine that generates mist or moisture just to cool the temperature of those birds down. Then another thing we put into consideration before even these birds came in is how the orientation of this pen was designed. The orientation of this pen was designed in such a way that the sun goes through its longitudinal section. That is, the longitudinal axis is between the east to west. East to west. Take note of this. Now, another thing we did concerning the birds, the fourth thing that we did was to make sure that when we are stocking these birds, we limited them to 3 per cell. I'll show you what that means. 3 per cell. By 3 per cell, we made sure that heat generation within the cell is reduced, and we ensure that whenever feed is served, all the birds are able to eat at the same time. And this helps to reduce, overcrowding, and it helps to reduce heat generation within the pen. Yeah, so what we're saying is that we've turned on the fogging machine, and you can see that it's not even up to 5 minutes that the fogging machine was turned on. I don't know if you are noticing the mist. Can you notice it? It's not even up to 5 minutes, and the birds are already getting wet. So for this fogging machine, there's a calibration that is done to ensure that the birds are the temperature in the environment is controlled optimally. This provides humidity. This reduces the temperature of the birds. And when you have this on your farm, you can say bye-bye to heat stress.